What up, guys? Look, episode 25. We're back. Hey, look, I'm sorry last week. You know what I mean? I didn't record an episode, but we're back full effect, and we do have a guest. He's not in person, but he's over the phone. So you're still here. You know what I mean? What's up, man? How you doing?
What's up, Rachel?
We
Thank you for
got
having me, man.
we got Jose Diaz. Jesus. Dang, I'm messing up. Jesus Diaz in the building, man. How you feeling?
I'm doing good, bro. Thanks for inviting me, my man.
No problem. You're not in the building, but you're still here. You're here in spirit,
All day. I'm always here. What up, bro? How you doing?
I'm good. So like it's kind of I was thinking about like having people on, and I thought about you, and I always like I don't know how I feel about this, but how you feel about this, but my family, my family and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you've always been like kind of the guy that like kind of like did something with themselves, and you're like kind of like that North Star, like he's like teaching in school, and he's doing this and doing that. So I'm like, man, let me get this guy on.
For sure, man. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here chopping it with you. It's been a long time. I feel like I've always talked to you here and there, but I haven't really sat down and actually chopped it up with you. So this is a good opportunity to dive into that.
Absolutely. Plus, like, you being an artist and I've always been kind of into music. I kind of dabbled into the music, so you kind of been somebody that's kind of like part of the family in a way, to where like I kind of like, oh, this guy does music too, so you kind of been an inspiration on that. So.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that, and I've certainly always looked at you and obviously your uncles as like extended family. So it's all love, man.
All love. But man, just to jump into it, man. Obviously, I know where you grew up from, but just to talk a little bit about, your childhood and where you grew up from.
Yeah, man. So I was born in Aurora, Illinois, east side of Aurora. That's where I grew up, man. Pretty much my mom raised me as a single child. My mom and dad split up a little early. My dad's from Chicago, so I've always had family here in the city. But it was at large I would like to say it was a normal childhood, my man. I grew up in Aurora again. I went to school in Aurora, went to middle school in Aurora. I graduated from East Aurora High School. So I was born in Aurora, man. That's what raised me.
Yeah, and like growing up in the East Side, it's obviously it's not Chicago, but it's pretty it's pretty rough.
Right.
What kind of like made you not go into that path, I guess?
Yeah, man. So well, from my understanding and from what I see, Aurora has changed a lot over the years. But growing up, certainly, in the 90s, it could be a little tough, man. There was a lot of gang activity, certainly a lot of violence, a lot of movement, if you will. But that slowly has started to change. But I feel like I've always had a good supporting system, especially at home. My mom was always there. My grandparents were always there. So I felt like that played a huge role. My cousins and I always stayed close together. So we were well aware of our outside influences, but we always try to, stay grounded and stay level-headed. And, obviously when you have a good support system at home, that goes a long way.
Yeah. Yeah, because it can kind of swallow you whole if you're in the wrong crowd and kind of,
Without a doubt.
It is a suburb, but like I think Aurora is the second biggest city next to Chicago, so.
Yeah. I feel like people who are not completely familiar with East Aurora, or I'm sorry, not East Aurora, Aurora as a whole, they think it's just another blended suburb, But,
Yeah.
no, there's definitely a lot of activity in Aurora, and not just bad activity. It's rather fluid. It's very diverse, so there's a lot of life in Aurora.
Yeah, absolutely. Big Hispanic culture, and I went to East and I went to West, and you could kind of tell the difference between the two. East is kind of just a bunch of Hispanics. It was like like it was great going to East and then West. You kind of see it's like more,
Mhm.
mixed and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. So I believe growing up, it was so when my parents, and I'm sure you know from having conversations with your family, but growing up, there was a lot of like whites and black people and Latino people, uh, but obviously as as the years passed by, you saw more of a change into the Latino culture, and we saw a lot of migrants and immigrant communities start setting roots in Aurora. So you slowly start to see the change where a lot of Latinos, again, displaced roots in East Aurora specifically. So it's definitely been a Latino city, but I love the fact that you still have the black community there, and you still see a lot of white folks there. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and the food's
Mhm.
always fire, so that's always good too.
Without a doubt, that's one thing about Aurora. It always had really good Mexican food. So you can't complain.
Definitely. Now, man, like just to get into it, I was gonna ask you like, what inspired you into to making music?
Well, um, so I guess I should start off by saying I never really thought I was going to be making music. Um, so uh, I, I I used to love to listen to rap, but I had no idea I had no idea what hip hop really was. I just, listened to rap, whatever was played on the radio, so on and so forth. But I never really knew what hip hop was. So when my cousin Manny, he's a little younger than me, Sobe one, he kind of introduced me to a group of his friends who were in a hip hop crew.
Nice.
Um, Yeah, so that's when I really started taking interest into hip hop. I first had to get educated because I really had no idea what hip hop was. Again, besides what I was hearing, besides the rap that I was hearing on the radio or whatever I saw like on BET and MTV or whatnot. Um, you know, that was my only exposure. But once you start realizing that hip hop is an entire culture, you know, that's when it becomes something new and something deep and something meaningful. And I feel like the whole hip hop culture is what really gravitated me. Um, so I never really thought I was going to be making music because when I started diving into the hip hop culture, my cousin Manny, he was a graffiti artist, so he was like, "Yo, man, this is my group of friends. They're out here doing graffiti and I was like, yeah, I really even didn't even know what graffiti was. I just thought graffiti was all gang stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, nah, that's not really for me. And then he started showing me these dope pieces, and really like dope murals that these graph artists were painting. And I was like, well, this is fun. I could do a little something like this, and I could do a little of that. And so I started, graphing a little bit, and I realized that I wasn't really that good at graphing. You know what I'm saying? And then he was like, "All right, well, this is a culture, man, and you could also break dance, you could also DJ, you could also MC rap." And I was like, "All right, cool. Let me go ahead and start b-boying." So I'm sure I was always a little flexible and had upper body strength. So I was like, well, I can start b-boying, I can start breakdancing.
Yeah.
you know. So we used to go to these cool hip hop events, man. And back in the mid '90s, back in the '90s in general, there used to be so many like b-boy competitions and b-boy battles, and then throughout the b-boy battles, there used to be performances, and
Yeah.
they used to be a DJ set, and then there used to be like the hip hop performances. And so we used to go in there, and we were there to check out the main attraction was which was the b-boy battles. Um, so I was trying to break dance and whatnot, but somehow, some way, like I always felt gravitated. I was always drawn and gravitated towards the musicians,
Yeah.
you know. And I always saw that, and I was like, man, these dudes are so dope. And I was like, I could never dream of doing that. Um, but I always like to write. Like somehow, some way, I always like to play with my words, and I always like to write. Certainly not rapping. I just like to write, play with my thoughts. So, you know, before you know it, I kind of, started off like everybody, just, scribbling your notes. Before you know it, you started, making words rhymes. And before you know, you're okay, let me go ahead and try to spit a couple bars.
Those
Okay.
Those
Right. Let
first.
me go ahead. Yeah,
Go.
yeah. Let's go ahead. Get a couple more. Let me go ahead and kick a couple freestyles, and before you know it, you start playing with the hook when you're in the car by yourself, or when you're walking
Yeah.
throughout the hallway. You start, try to recite some of these words, and the story it slowly starts to escalate. You start hooking up with other musicians. I was fortunate enough to like have some really good, talented artists within my crew, so it kind of just took off from there, man.
Those first couple of songs, though, I bet they were like,
They're trash, bro.
yeah, bro. When you first start off, you're like, I don't know about this. But in your mind, you're listening, you're like rapping to it or whatever. You're looking at, it, you're like, man, this is dope, man. I'm telling you, this is fire. I can't wait to show this.
Oh man, like one time we recorded this joint, and there was this other crew that brought us over, and they had their whole setup. They had already released like a successful tape. If I may shout them out, TBA crew, them Bad Apples. They had released a self-titled tape, and it circulated throughout Aurora and Chicago. And man, they were making some noise, them Bad Apples. So they had a place where they recorded, and they brought us over, and I was like, shoot, man, well, here we go, man. We're next, man. We're the next generation, man. You know what I mean? And with me and my partner, we recorded this joint, man, and they kind of just like crapped on it. They were like, bro, you guys are kids. You guys still need work, bro. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
let's slow it down. Let's go ahead, really own it, and craft your music before you guys start trying to release an entire album. Like, take it easy. So, uh, it was definitely cheese ball, bro. But I'm glad that they were able to tell me that it was cheese ball before we went ahead and put it out there.
Sometimes that has to happen. I mean, it's like I think about the same way with the podcast. I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna go back to like the first episode and like look at the difference of the progress. Like, oh man, what was I doing? You know?
It's an evolution, man. But you know what? It's something that we could all be proud of, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So what was like? I guess you're still in the process of making music. Like, what is your goal with the music? How far do you like want to take it, or what is your goals for it?
Well, Angel, it's been a journey making music, man. So we've recorded about 3 or 4 albums, a lot of songs throughout our time. If I may, we started off as like a hip hop, just 2 MCs and a DJ group. Me and my boy Carlos, most of Jackal. We started recording and making songs, right? And we started playing local shows, and in the city. And then we eventually transitioned into making it a band, which is called the Peachtree.
Dope name,
And
by the way, man. Dope name.
I appreciate that. We kind of just named it after my grandfather's peach tree.
Oh, dude, that's raw.
Yeah. We named it after my grandpa's peach tree, so that name's always meant a lot to me. It's also like a conversation starter because when we're doing shows, here comes the band. Who's playing the peach tree? The peach tree. Once we get to chopping it up and we get to talking, people always find a way to ask it. Again, it's a good conversation starter. But now, man, we started making shows as like a 2 MCs and a DJ. But then we started making music, I would say late 90s, early 2000s. And at that time, in indie hip hop, underground hip hop was really big. It had kind of started to take off. So indie hip hop was a lane where like a lot of like skaters, were part of it. A lot of like alternative people were part of this culture of indie hip hop, not just
Like
what you see.
like Linkin Park, stuff
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
yeah. it was something different. Some people called it just like backpack rap or nerd
Yeah.
rap or alternative rap. There's so many like subgenres.
They try to label everything, man.
Exactly, exactly. And especially at that time because it was like so new. Everybody was
Yeah.
just used to like hearing what they heard on the radio or sounding like X, Y, and Z. So there was this wave like from maybe 98 to like 2005 where it was just experimental indie rock rap, type of stuff. And we're like, all right, cool. This is right up our alley. Let's go ahead and try to make something cool. But again, it was a wave and it eventually caught up. So then everybody was like trying to rap. So we're like, okay, you know, what's going to set us apart, especially in a small community? So we're like, okay, let's go ahead and just put a band together and try to fuse in our Latin roots and our rock roots and our hip hop roots and try to blend something together. So eventually we ended up forming the two-man MC and a DJ into a full live band. And that was a complete adjustment because I had to learn how to write to a band. You know,
Yeah.
I was just used to writing to a beat, what I'm saying? But once you're in a live band, you're almost at the mercy of the band. You know, I can't just tell people, "Hey, stop, rewind, play it again." You know what I mean? This isn't. I don't have my headphones on. I can't just stop it on my own and play it on my own when I want to.
Yeah.
And so when you start working with a group of people, it's all about adapting. It's all about having patience and being able to blend. And man, fortunately, we had a really good run. We did quite a bit of shows. We toured a couple times, and it was overall a great experience. Unfortunately, man, like we're not active anymore as much as we would like to be. It's predominantly because every one of our members pretty much has kids already, and
Yeah.
they started their lives per se, and you know, at times we have priorities and those priorities come first. So we're not as active as we would like to be. Uh, but make no mistake, I'm certainly always riding. And uh, actually, I just do it because this is a part of me. This is, what I love to do.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily that goal that we have, like, oh yeah, one day we're gonna make it, blah blah. Blah. It's not that anymore, but it's always a passion for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like as a artist too, it's like that drive or that passion kind of never goes away. You're always writing or you're always thinking of stuff like even when, because I mean I did do like a couple songs and it was honestly a big dream of mine like when I was younger and
Yeah.
that was like probably like the first dream I ever had, but it was just like you said, it's just like one of those things where it kind of like, things, I don't know, get in the way of it. And then, but like that artist, like that drive and all that, it just never goes away. Like I'm constantly just, things are popping in my head or I'll write like one or two bars and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's your creative side for sure, man. And I mean, that's a beautiful thing to have that creative side. And that creative side comes in many forms. It doesn't always have to come in with music or art per se.
Yeah.
People always think like creative people, they're always artists, meaning they draw or they make music. No, it could come in a variety of ways, right? Like fashion, carpentry. You could get creative in the way you teach, so on and so forth. So being creative comes in a variety of ways. And man, once you realize and you own your creative side, sky's the limit, bro. You could be creative and you could be peaceful for the rest of your life, knowing that you have a creative side within you.
Absolutely. That's how I feel like with the podcast too. I'm like, I kind of stopped doing the music and I was like, I listened to a podcast probably consistently for like 2 years and I was like, man, I want to do it. So then I did it and it's just crazy. Like you said, you use your creative side, but you can really use it for anything. And this is probably like one of the things I feel like I'm kind of using it for too, for right now.
Yeah, 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 absolutely, man. So how long have you guys been doing your podcast for now?
I've been, man, I think it's been like 4 months, 5 months.
Is it you by yourself? Because I thought you had a partner, if I'm correct.
Oh, no,
Or,
no, it's just me right
am I
now.
wrong?
I
Okay.
did. I had my boy David, but you
Okay.
know, he kind of, you know, he has a barber shop and a business that he runs, and you know,
Yeah.
kind of got, you know, prioritized. It's kind of the same like with your situation with the music and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what's up, man. I didn't know you were leading this podcast, man. So shout out to you, bro. This is cool.
Yeah, no, man, it's just me, and then I try to get consistent guests, and if I can't, then it's just me by myself. Mostly, sometimes, you know, usually me and my fiance. So,
Yeah. That's cool.
but yeah, man, it's just I enjoy doing it. I love the conversation and kind of just
Right.
trying to get like different perspectives from different people and different aspects of life, and because I feel like we're always learning, like, you know what I mean. And I feel like not a lot of people can learn. I feel like a lot of people can learn from others, and I feel like especially people that are older, but also I feel like all ages, like, you know what I mean. So
Absolutely. It's all about building with people, man, and drawing inspiration from one another. I feel like, once you really embrace that, man, that's when you really start opening up possibilities for you.
yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, you're like your band, the Peachtree was probably like the first like local music that I known.
Hmm.
And I remember like when I first was trying to make music, like my Theo Art was the one that showed me you, and I'm like, man, like, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can make music, I can do it. I don't remember when this was. I might have been in sixth grade, fifth grade, I don't know, but
Right.
I just remember that, and it's just crazy. Like, you could be doing something and you don't understand like how somebody can take from that. Like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. That's really cool, man. I'm glad that Arturo introduced me to that, man. Arturo was a really good friend of mine, man. I actually considered him one of my really good friends growing up. Him and your uncle Adon as well.
Yeah.
They're really one of my really good friends growing up. I have a lot of fun memories of these guys, man, kicking it with them, just hanging out with them. You know, we did a lot of cool stuff growing up.
Like stuff I can't really talk about, but just know it was fun. but
It was fun for sure, bro.
but no, like it's funny because like I was looking at through like some pictures that I think my grandma had, and there's like
Uh,
there's so many pictures with you in it, bro.
Man, again, man, like some of my teenage memories were with these guys at your grandma's house, kicking it and hanging out, and just being silly and growing up, right, together. That
Yeah.
that's what it was all about, man. Those were some of my really good friends growing up, man. And although I don't see them as much anymore, or get to talk to them as much, I still have a lot of love for these dudes, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's kind of crazy too, full circle how it goes around. Cause like
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
literally pictures of me when I was like a babe, like a kid, and like you're in the
yeah.
background, and then like now I'm doing a podcast with you. So it's just, it's
Right,
dope,
like
man.
literally, that's really cool. I remember you as a little baby, bro. Real talk. I remember you as a little baby just running around while we were hanging out. Those were good times, man. You know what I'm saying? Those are good memories for sure.
Yeah. No, but I was gonna ask you, what made you want to start your business? I know you have a vintage. It's called Just One Vintage. What made you want to start that?
Yeah, man. Well, it was a big transition, right? So and just kind of back to what we were talking about, creativity, right? Like, uh, I've always been into sports. I've always been into like collecting jerseys. I've always been into like not necessarily too much fashion, but more so like style, like
Yeah.
just style in whatever area of your life that is. I've kind of always been into style. Um, so I kind of wanted to channel my creativity and keep it moving. I noticed that the music thing had really started slowing down with my bandmates, so I wanted to keep my creative juices flowing. So it kind of really just happened by accident when I started Just One Vintage. Because I moved from Aurora to Chicago about 7 years ago, bro. I took on a position here in Chicago. I started working for the school system over here in Chicago, and and So I was moving my items from Aurora to Chicago, and I left a lot of junk back in my mom's crib. And my mom, so I used to go visit my mom. When I go visit my mom weekly, she always used to be like, "Hey, you know what? You have a lot of stuff here. What you want to do with them? You want me to just take it to Goodwill and donate it?" So I had a closet full of boxes of old school jerseys,
Oh wow.
and these are jerseys that I've collected throughout the '90s, so on and so forth. So my mom's like, "Damn, I'm just gonna take this box to Goodwill," and I'm like, "Nah, that's worth money, you know." And she's like, "Well, "You didn't get no money, sitting here, you know." And so I was like, "Nah, they're worth money, man. I'm gonna sell them eventually. I'm gonna sell them." So one day I'm like, "Man, if they're worth money, Jesus, why don't you really sell them?" you know. Uh, I started like doing some research, and I was like, "Man, I'm gonna go ahead and just like start listing them." So I started, doing some research, and I'm like, "Okay, let me try to list them on eBay. Let me try to list them on some of these platforms like Etsy, and and see what happens, And lo and behold, they like popped off really quick, you know. Um, it's all a learning experience because I sold some of these jerseys for really cheap, you know. I was just
Yeah.
happy to sell them. I was just happy to sell them because I was, I'm getting some kind of money. you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm not even rocking them anymore, so I'm just happy to get some kind of money. But then something clicked, and I'm like, yo, man, there's something to this, you know. So I kind of started going out to thrift stores. And I started like picking and like looking at these cool vintage clothes, and I just kind of like started doing a little bit more research and kept listing and listing. And before you know it, I'm like, okay, there's something to this. There's something to this. I'm actually making some kind of income off of this. And,
Wow.
and, throughout this time, I kept my job. I was still working for the schools here in Chicago. And I kept my job but in the, it just kind of started as a hobby. I started, just picking, listing, shipping, um, listing and selling, listing and selling, listing and selling, and and before you know it, I'm like, okay, this is becoming something that I could possibly see myself doing long term, not just as a hobby, but long term. Um, so I found this little space here in the city that was relatively close to where I live and where I work at, and I opened it 5 years ago. So I have a little store in the Pilsen neighborhood called Just One Vintage. So I opened this little store, had a few clothing racks, and I wasn't necessarily looking to make a store out of it, more so as a workspace and a creative space. That
Yeah.
was my initial like vision for the space that I was renting out, you know. So I had a few racks full of clothes, and I was like, all right, cool. What I'm gonna do is, I talked to my girlfriend, and because we shared this business. I had started selling before her, but she's very creative as well. So she decided to like go in on the business with me, and our vision was just to like have it as a creative space, have our clothes here, and have like poetry night, like hip hop night, or open it up for like community meetings, and at the same time bringing people and have people shop or whatever.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, that was our vision. uh but that didn't really happen that way. It kind of like people started looking at our spaces like a real store. You know what I mean? So we kind of just kept going with it, and we're fortunate, man. We're blessed that 5 years down the line we're still here, bro.
That's amazing, and it all started from you going like from your mom's house, had some old clothes, and it's kind of
Yeah,
crazy where
yeah,
it's
yeah,
at.
yeah, and um, it really is crazy because it I certainly was not expecting to do something like this.
Yeah.
You know, I've been fortunate enough to be able to like leave my full time job and make this my full time job. um, and it was pretty much all predicated from my mom. Like, hey man, you got to get these clothes out of here.
She's like, you just too many boxes in here. Come on.
Yeah, man. So shout out to my mom.
That's what's up. No, man, like just thinking about that, like what do you feel like people kind of I say like when they want to start something they can kind of be hesitant or they won't expect like where it could be. What do you feel is the reason for that?
um, well, I mean, people are scared to fail, right?
Yeah.
That's what stops people from venturing off. Because they're scared to fail, and it's okay because you are gonna fail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's okay. Because you are going to get knocked down, and ain't nothing wrong with that. Um, the, the real key is to keep learning and keep growing, and don't let that stop you, because it. Let's just say you're weightlifting. You're not going to be able to but if you just start off lifting, you're not going to be able to lift 245 plates right off the bat, right?
Yeah.
You're going to give it a try and probably going to be like, oh, I can't lift this, it's too heavy. But guess what? You keep training, you keep trying, you keep learning, you keep reading, you keep doing research, you keep asking for advice, and eventually, hey, you're going to be able to push those plates. It's going to be good, right? And that's the way it is. If you want to start a business or you want to, do your music thing or your podcast thing or your carpentry or whatever it is that you want to dabble in, if it's brand new to you, chances are you're not going to be good,
Yeah.
and people don't want to do that because they're scared to fail. But it's okay to fail, man. It's not a big deal. I feel like we live in a society where now we're kind of under a microscope, especially because we have to put everything online now, right? Whether we
Yeah.
like it or not, that's the way we promote ourselves online. That's the way it has to be done now. So, for me, I'm an older dude now, and I'm not trying to be on TikTok. I'm not trying to be on IG. I'm not really trying to be on Twitter. But I realize that those are essential platforms, right?
Yeah.
And those could be very useful platforms if you do it right. So I feel like, kind of back to our saying and back to answer your question, people don't want to dive in because it's a lot of work, man, and they're scared to fail. And sometimes, they're scared to face a little bit of ridicule because you have to put this stuff on, these social
Yeah.
media platforms. You have to put yourself out, right? It
Yeah.
sucks.
I feel like I'm in the process of learning that, man. Like with everything that I'm doing right now, I feel like I'm in the process of trying to cause it's tough, man. Like you said, it's your life's on a microscope, right? Did you say that? Yeah,
Yeah.
microscope. So it's
Yeah.
like everyone's kind of just seeing what you do next and seeing how you're gonna calculate and stuff like that. And it and a lot of times too, man, it can be a lot of pressure, and a lot of people don't. I think that's probably why a lot of people don't take that step too.
Right. It's a lot of pressure, bro. It's a lot of, and depending on what you got going on in your individual life, it could be a lot of stress too, right?
Yeah.
And especially if you got something going on, you know, with your daily lifestyle and your family, or if you have kids or your friends or whatever, family, it could be overwhelming. It could be a lot of pressure. So sometimes people don't have uh, enough time to pursue their creativity or take that risk, or, people are hesitant because they realistically just don't want to take time to risk their passion,
Yeah. Or their priorities of their family or whatever too.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Everything goes into play.
Yeah. No, it's crazy, man. But I mean, just take that step, man. Like we talked about it on the podcast before with previous guests, and I kind of try to push it on people because, like you said, you never expected your business to get like this. I never expected to be on episode 25, so it's just like you kind of just have to do it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. You you have to have some kind of drive, right?
Yeah.
That's the only way it's going to work. You have to have some kind of drive. If you're running on empty, you're really not going to go far. So you kind of have to have some kind of drive to keep going. Um, and man, you got to keep pushing, bro. You can't be scared to fail because guess what, man? You're probably gonna fail. You
Yeah.
know, and I'm just reiterating that it's okay to fail. It's again, we live under a microscope and under the social media lens that we're scared to fail. We're scared to mess up because hey, somebody's gonna be on the comments, right?
Yeah.
Making fun of you somehow, some ways. But it's all good. You got to kill that. That's just noise, bro. You got to kill that. That's just noise.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um. So what? Like, how was the transition? I was like, you moved from Aurora to Chicago. How was that
Mm-hmm.
transition? Like, is it different where you're at? Is it?
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
a lot
It,
noisier.
yeah, bro. It's certainly a lot noisier out here, man. It was. You know what, man? Like I feel like I've always been like a city person.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. Like I've always been had like a city personality. Um, but I also like my peace. You know,
Yeah.
with like clean streets. But there's just so much going on here in the city. I've been fortunate that I've been coming here from like at a young age because my dad's from Chicago, so I've always chopped it up with my cousins. Here from my dad's side somehow, some way. So, I was always in tune with the city somehow, some way.
Yeah.
Um,
I was gonna say, speaking on the city, like I feel like whenever I'm in the city, I feel like you gotta be on guard.
yeah, I first of all, that's like the negative side of being and living in the city. You're it's not peaches and cream. You're not in the suburbs, right?
Yeah.
you but I do think that it is over exaggerated.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great community here. There's a lot of culture here. It's a lot of love, peace. But yeah, it's a gritty city, bro. Like it's definitely for like you gotta hustle. And yeah, I guess to a certain extent you are right. You kind of do have to be a little guarded up here sometimes, and but I feel like it does get there's a lot of great neighborhoods in the city. I feel like people in the suburbs talk about the city in a really negative light, like oh man, saying install violence and gunshots and a bunch of liberals in the city, without getting political or anything like that. But
Yeah.
like if you kill that noise, man, if you just focus on the human aspect and the community aspect and the culture aspect and building relationships, man, it's all love, really. Like the neighborhood that I live in, it's full of community. It's very vibrant. It's very rich, you know. But you're not lying. You do have to be guarded. You know what I'm saying? It's
I'm
not the
I,
birds.
speaking. It's funny because like speaking. I remember like last time. Last time I went to the city, I was like
Mhm.
in the subway and like there's some guy in the right hand corner just like talking to himself. I'm just like, you know what I mean? But like, it's funny though because there's some parts of Aurora that are kind of like the same way. So it's not
Yeah.
like for me wasn't like super unfamiliar because like I kind of like there's stuff like that always like when Aurora like it's kind of the same, but like it's a little different.
Yeah, man. You're talking about like the third biggest city, right? And
Yeah,
it's extremely trafficked, so it's inevitable, right? There's going to be activity.
yeah,
You talk about New York, you talk about LA, you talk about Chicago, or any other like really busy metropolitan city. There's going to be some kind of activity. It's just inevitable.
yeah.
But yeah, man, it's a different world for sure. Like people who come here, and don't really know what to expect. I always see them being like culture shocked for sure.
Definitely. But no, like you said, like the times I've been to the city, man, like I feel the vibes though. It's different. Like it's kind of like it's like you said, it's vibrant and it's not just always bad
No,
and I feel
yeah.
like it's the same connotation with Aurora. Like I'm in the country, man. So it's like I moved out of the city. I'm kind of living slow. I got my family, I got my son. I got one on the way. So I'm kind of like my goal is
Congratulations, bro. Man,
thank you.
so So you have one son, right?
Yeah, I got one son, Elias. He's gonna turn 2 in September, and then I got one on the way.
Congrats, bro. That's love, man. I just turned 40, bro, and I have none.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, hey, it's never too late. Never too late.
No. I still hope to have some, man, but I'm taking it easy still.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's great, man. I love being a dad, man. It's amazing. Like, but yeah, no, like, so I'm honestly kind of just trying to get out of that. Me and my fiance, our goals is to own a ranch one day. Have some cattle and stuff like that. I don't know what it was for me, but it's just I don't know, man. I kind of like I've been in the city, not like obviously not like Chicago, but I've been in the city in Aurora, and it's kind of busy and traffic and all that, and you kind of just see the difference out here. And I don't know. I think it's just having my son kind of just let's get out of here. Let's go somewhere slow living.
That's beautiful, man. So like, my girl, she was born and raised in Chicago, and so the idea of going to the suburbs to her is like, what the hell am I gonna do there? Like, there's nothing there, but because she's used to being stimulated by the city's environment, like it's always it's always something to do. There's always something you could draw inspiration from, right?
Yeah.
That's the way the city moves, But we did talk about like, okay, maybe years down the line, because we both love nature too. So we're like, if we live the city, we're gonna live the city and like get some kind of ranch
Yeah.
Okay? Just have like a gang
Escape.
of dogs or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, escape and kind of go from one extreme to another. At least you'll have your space that you could actually grow and cultivate, and yeah, I feel you, bro. I'm all for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, man. I'm 24, so it's like I'm still young, but like having my son, I feel like I don't know, I just feel like I'm old now. So it's just like, I don't know if it's because I have my son and I'm just like my I guess what I'm looking at it. It's just like, what is something sustainable for us, and that's how we kind of look at it. And we're just like, I kind of want to teach my kid how to grow his own food and how to do different stuff like that. And so that's just like what I'm still, I mean, we're in like me and my fiance, she watches so many YouTube videos, and we're in the process of learning everything like through YouTube, which is amazing. Like, YouTube don't get a lot of credit, man. Like, it's crazy so much stuff you can learn from there.
No, that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful, man. I admire what you guys are doing, and man, bro, YouTube is a great tool.
Yeah, YouTube University, man. I'm gonna make T-shirts out of that for real.
Bro, I love that. I love that, bro. YouTube University, man.
For real.
Man, so like me and my girlfriend, we just bought a house here in Chicago, and
Yeah, I seen that. I seen that you posted on the book. I was like, oh, nice.
yeah. So so we just bought a house. We actually bought it last year, right? But we actually just moved in this year because we did a whole rehab loan, and so it took so we pretty much bought like a beater, and it was a gut rehab, so it took 1 year to completely rehab. But to your point, bro, man, I mean, don't get me wrong, we had a lot of we had a rehab loan, so we had like legitimate contractors working on our house. But with that said, again, to your point, we've dabbled into YouTube videos, all kinds of tutorials, man, because shit gets sorry, man. Stuff gets expensive, man. So you kind of have to learn how to do some of this stuff on your own. And YouTube is a great tool, bro.
Oh man, dude. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Google and YouTube, I don't know what we would do. It's crazy. You gotta be careful what you Google though, because if you're sick and then you Google something, you might it'll tell you that you got cancer or all types of stuff. So you gotta be careful with that.
I know you start self-diagnosing yourself.
Getting nervous and stuff. I'm like, man, just go see a doctor. Like, honestly.
Yeah, I know, man. I know, man. Yeah, for sure.
But this is like a recurring question I always ask. Guests like yourself, older. Just because I feel like as you get older, you have more experience, and those are the people I kind of gravitate toward because I know I can learn something. So
Mhm.
I always ask this question: what is something that you would tell your younger self if you could?
Man, Angel, you know what? It's funny because that's a very simple question, but at the same time, it's a very loaded question, right? Because uh, as you're growing, you go through many phases and stages of your life. So it's like, you in every stage and phase of your life, you need certain advice, right? So, what advice would you give your younger self? What advice would you give your middle school self? What advice would you give your high school self? What advice would I give myself 10 years ago? I was
Yeah.
young. So it's a very simple question. But at the same time, it's a very loaded question that has a lot of layers to that. That's the way I perceive it. But man, generally speaking, like just to sum it up, I probably would tell myself, man, it's okay to be insecure. You know, um,
That's a good
it,
one. That's a good one.
it, it's okay to be insecure, and it's okay to be going through internal conflict. Um, Especially when you're growing up, your middle school years, your high school years, those could be very pivotal. I'm sorry. And you, you deal with stress, you deal with certain depression, you deal with the challenges of high school in general, just trying to get by, trying to get good grades, trying to do your homework. Some of us, had jobs while we were in high school. Then you deal with certain pressures of high school, like trying to be cool, trying to be popular. The schools that we went to, some gang activity or X, Y, and Z. So it's really easy to get lost and get caught up, and it's you see quite often that people try to suppress their insecurities and their feelings, and they channel it into something negative. So I would tell my younger self, it's okay to be insecure. It's okay to be going through internal conflict. It's okay to have people judging you, because these people who may or may not be judging you are not always going to be here in your life. You know,
Preach, bro.
surround
Preach. Tell
you,
them.
you have to try to surround yourself with good people. So I will continue to tell myself, surround yourself with good people. Don't be scared to seek out help. You know, don't be scared to address your mental health, right?
Yeah.
You know, because especially us in the Latino culture, we don't really do therapy, right?
For
You know what I'm
real.
saying? It's just that's very foreign to us. Like my mom, she never did therapy. Like I ain't about to spend money. And now, there's other outlets in which you could get therapy for free, right?
Yeah.
But back then, growing up, there was no such thing as really therapy. Like suck it up, keep working. So I would tell my younger self, like, bro, it's okay to seek out help, man. It's okay to reach out to friends and express yourself, not just tell your friends what you think they want to hear, but be completely honest. Tell your friends, tell your teacher, tell your counselor, your pastor, or whoever your support system is. Tell them how you're feeling, because even if your teacher doesn't have the answer, your counselor doesn't have the answer, your friend doesn't have the answer, you reach out and talk to so many people, somebody's eventually going to point you in the right direction, you
Yeah.
know, you know. So I would continue to tell my younger self, man, just surround yourself with good people, have a good, strong support system, stay focused, don't be afraid to express yourself. And at the end of the day, again, just keep working, because if you keep working, nothing but positivity will eventually materialize from your hard work.
Yeah. That's powerful, man. That's good. You're speaking to me, man. Every single time I ask that question, in a way I'm kind of asking for myself as well. So it's always good to get different people, and they always there's always different answers. So it's great.
Yeah, man. And like I, I would just like to touch on the mental health portion because some people don't know they're going through mental health. Through mental health issues. Some people don't know that they're going through their internal conflicts because they've never experienced something like that. So they just feel like, man, I'm too emotional.
Yeah,
Or man, I'm just lazy. Like people could be very hard on themselves, right? Like,
yeah.
what the heck is wrong with me, man? I'm just lazy. I just gotta, stop thinking crazy. I just, gotta get out of my head. I'm being too emotional. I'm being too sensitive, you know? But the reality is that you're probably feeling like this because of some reason, you know?
Yeah.
And it's good to talk to people. So mental health is really key, man, to, to be at a good space and, especially for like the underprivileged community, the Latino community, the Black community. It's like you need to be able to be okay with your mental health, and I wish I had more information back then as I have now. I wish some of these issues were brought to the forefront. Um, and I just hope now that this information is out there, like some of this newer generation could benefit from. And,
Oh man.
I hope they embrace
Yeah,
it.
and I feel like right now, like we're just like what we were speaking about with the social media and all that, man, it's so much, I think, worse for this generation. You know what I mean? Because everything's just at a click aways, and it's so much easier to kind of feel down on yourself. You know what I mean? Like you can
Yeah.
legit know, you can legit have somebody you've never met in your life say something on your post or whatever you posted, and that could just
Mhm.
like ruin your day. And you never know this guy. Like this guy can be sleep like me in his mom's basement or whatever. And it's just
Absolutely.
and that's crazy that you say that because I feel like a lot of people don't address mental health, and I feel like it
Mhm.
gets to the point where it can it can literally eat you up, man, and you kind of just live day to day with it, and yeah, it's tough, man.
Yeah, man. It's funny because like a lot of, especially like my generation, maybe a little older, they're like, man, these kids nowadays have it so easy. But man, like these kids nowadays also have a whole new set of challenges that we never really had to deal with. You know,
Yeah,
like I social media wasn't necessarily present when I was, when I was growing up. So everything was phone calls and like library. Like let's go to a library if you want to try to educate yourself and find additional information, or whatever was on TV that we could gravitate towards or take in. But like nowadays, like there's so much information being fed to you that and everybody has an opinion, right?
yeah,
And now everybody could see your opinion and reads your opinion, and like you said, man, it's very detrimental um, if you're not well. You have to be comfortable with yourself. So that's big, man.
yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely, and especially like for a young kid, you know what I mean? These, like you said, high school, middle school are like pivotal moments in a teenager's life, and
Mhm.
man, like you hit it right on the nail. Like you got to realize that these people are gonna be there and gone. Like, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like people move on. Like that's what I was like talking to my fiance about too, and I think I talked about it on the podcast as well. Is that what's happening? Like if you're in high school, right? You're going through an issue. Like that's gonna
Mhm.
pass, man. It's gonna pass. Everything eventually passes.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, it's hard to tell somebody, it's okay, bro. It's okay. When they're
Yeah.
going through it, it's very difficult to just tell somebody who's going through it, it's okay, bro. It's gonna pass. And because the reality is that they're going through something deep, right?
Yeah.
And so you need a strong supporting system, and it and it's very easy to get caught up in the noise, the negative noise, because realistically speaking, when you're growing up, the negative noise affects you more than the positive. It sounds bad,
Oh yeah.
but like you hang on to the negative noise. The positive, they're just gratifying moments, but the negativity is what some people tend to dwell on, and
Yeah.
it's unfortunate, man. So I we got to be good with ourselves, man.
Absolutely. And like you said, therapy, man. Therapy is one of the biggest things. My mother-in-law is actually a licensed therapist, so I had her on
Yeah,
the podcast, and we kind of touched on that, and I was asking her, about why do people look at like therapy like a stigma, like it's something that you can't do, or like why are you gonna do that? That's a waste of money. And it's just you just gotta look at it like I'm going through something that I haven't addressed, and I need to work on it.
right.
So and it's powerful because once you start working on those things, man, like your life just it's like a weight off your shoulders. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 man. That's huge, man, and I hope that more people have accessible therapy, and especially in the underprivileged communities, the urban communities, the quote unquote urban communities, right? Uh, so I really hope that there's more access to that. I would hope that there would be more access to that in schools,
Yeah.
because that's when people or kids, that's a pivotal stage, man, where kids really go through it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, man, it was great having you on, man. Episode 25. I appreciate you taking the time to chop it up with me, have a little convo, you know what I'm saying? Catch up, because I mean, I don't know when's the last time I actually talked to you, so.
Yeah, man. I know it's been a long time, man. You got my name wrong.
I know, right? I was like, man, I'm messing up. In the beginning, I was like, I'm not gonna lie, just to be honest, I was like, man, I was a little nervous. I'm always nervous whenever I start, and it's like it's crazy because
Yeah.
I'm like on episode 25, and I
Mm-hmm.
mess up a bit, and I'm like in my head. But as soon as like the conversation starts flowing, I'm like, okay, like it just kind of like it picks up, and then it's smooth. So
Man, when not to drag out the podcast, but when we used to perform, when we used to like go on stage, man, like the minutes before, that's when your jitters kick in, right?
yeah,
So you kind of just like, all right, it's game time. You start shaking a little bit, and you get that adrenaline in you. You get a little nervous, uh, and but once like the music kicks in, and once the beat slaps, it, everything's good, because hey, man, this is what you do, right? You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
This is what we do. You're on episode 25 for a reason. you
Hey,
know,
for real,
this is
man.
this is what you do, bro. And you're just gonna keep getting better.
Yeah, yeah, and that's yeah, man. It's crazy too because I see the progress, I see it growing, and I see like where I've started, man. And it's just like what we were saying, like with your business and like everything, like you never never expected to get to this level, and it's just amazing, man. Like I mean, yeah, episode 25. I mean, like that's kind of like thinking about it right now. That's just kind of big, man. I did 25 episodes of a podcast that I
Yeah.
never thought I was going to actually do. So,
You're a quarter in, bro. I can't wait till you reach 50. I can't wait to reach 75 and make it to 100, man. That's gonna be big, bro.
yeah, maybe I'll have Joe Rogan on by then. I don't know.
That'll be huge, bro.
No, but no, man. But loved. It was a great episode, man. I definitely want to get you in person, man. I'm gonna have to. I don't know what we're gonna have to do, but um,
Yeah.
definitely
Mhm.
enjoyed having you on, man. I knew it
I,
was
I
gonna
thought
be
we
a
were
good
gonna,
one.
I thought we were gonna meet through Google Meets, bro.
I know.
It's because I was working through I was working at a school through the pandemic, man. So we were doing a lot of like Google Meets and a lot of Zoom classes. So I was like, it was like second nature to me. I just went up there when you sent me the Google calendar invite.
Yeah.
I was
Oh.
Yeah, so I was like, all right, we're doing Google Meet. Word. you know?
No, I'm not there yet, man. I'm trying to get to that point where like I kind of like I touched on how to like I gotta read into it how I can kind of make that happen. But no, but like
Like,
it's funny because
there's nothing to it. But
yeah,
yeah.
it's funny because you were like, yeah, I'm already like, you're probably all fresh and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, what's up? You know what I'm saying? Just one vintage. You know what I'm saying? You got the jersey on. What you rocking right now, bro?
Bro, I'm actually at my shop, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was set up at my shop, man, and we closed. I was open a little bit. We opened Wednesday through Saturday, man. So we were open today. We closed doors at 7 o'clock. So I just kind of kicked it here, and I was like, might as well take the Google Meet video chat with you. But then
Hey,
you're like, no, we're doing cool.
yeah, no, but hey, man, you know what? How about this? Like next time I shoot out to Chicago and I can bring my equipment, we can record at your shop.
Yeah, man, that'll be great, man. My doors are always welcome. It'll be great to set it up, man. And heck, man, you could line up a few guests here, bro, and the doors will be open.
Hey, man.
You can have a few interviews, man, and my my casa tu casa, bro.
Let's go. Let's go. No, that'd be great, man. I need a yeah, the city is where it's at, so I know eventually I'm gonna have to kind of like start making my way out there because that's where the people are gonna be. But yeah,
Network a little bit, man. Interview some of these local artists, man. The community is very rich here, man. I live in the Pilsen neighborhood, and the community is very rich, man. But there's a lot of vibrant neighborhoods. You got Humboldt Park, Evanston. You got Inglewood, man. People always want to, have negative things to say, man. But there's always good people in every neighborhood, man. And there's always good people that got a lot to offer. But man, it's been real, Angel, man. Thank you again. My casa's tu casa. Whenever you want to come through, man, it's all love.
all love, man. Thanks for having you on. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.